Beneath Vatican City, beneath the tourists, the paintings, and the whispered prayers, there's a door few know exists, and fewer have ever seen. A vault only 20 people on Earth are allowed to enter, heavily guarded, rarely spoken of, and according to some, protected by more than just locked gates. Inside there are 53 miles of ancient shelves, 12 centuries of sealed history, and if the whispers are true, something more than just history. They call it the Chronovisor, a machine that doesn't just record the past, it watches it. But here's the real question. If the Vatican has a device that sees through time, what else have they seen? What if the greatest lie ever told was that we already know our past? For centuries, it was known as Archivum Secretum Vaticanum, the Vatican Secret Archive. In 2019, they changed the name, a soft rebrand, the Apostolic Archive. It was harmless, official, almost boring. But the secrecy, that didn't change. Most people imagine a library, but what they don't see is that this archive is a fortress, reinforced walls, climate control vaults, armed guards, and access only available to handpicked scholars. Even then, you can't just browse, you have to know exactly what document you want, down to the title and year. If you don't know what's hidden, you're never going to find it.
The Vatican Archive spans over 85 kilometers. Documents under 75 years old remain classified. Requests require demonstrated need and must be pre-approved by ecclesiastical authority.
We know a few things for sure. Michelangelo's letters, Galileo's trial records, the excommunication of Martin Luther, even the 1530 request that helped trigger the English Reformation. But see, that's just the surface. Below those shelves, in the sectors that don't appear on maps, are the ones that don't belong in history, because they belong to secrecy. And in 1965, one of them made a mistake, because someone talked. In 1952, a Benedictine monk boarded a ferry down the Grand Canal in Venice. He was quiet, well-dressed, but he had eyes like someone who'd seen more than he was ready to say. His name was Father Pellegrino Ernetti. He was a musician, a physicist, a scholar, and a monk, a great resume. Sitting across from him was another priest, François Brun, a theologian visiting from France. Their conversation started with scripture, but it didn't stay there, because at one point, Ernetti leaned in and said,
"Faith ends when you've seen the past for yourself."
Brun thought it was a metaphor, but it wasn't. Ernetti claimed that deep within the Vatican archive, hidden below the index floors, was a device. One he helped build. A machine that lets you see into the past. Any place, any time, like a telescope aimed at history. They call it the Chronovisor.
Chrono, from the Greek chronos, meaning time. Visor, Latin videre, to see. The term does not appear in any official Vatican lexicon.
Ernetti wasn't just making claims, he offered examples. He'd heard speeches by Mussolini, seen ancient Rome in its prime, watched Cicero deliver orations no one had heard in 2,000 years. And more than anything, he claimed to have seen Jesus. The crucifixion, the Last Supper, even the delivery of the Ten Commandments. He said the Chronovisor didn't transport you physically, it worked more like a screen. A cathode ray tube fed by what Ernetti believed were the electromagnetic echoes of the past, still vibrating through time, waiting to be tuned into. But the most interesting part for me was that he wasn't working alone. He said that he was part of a 12-person team, most unnamed. But the two he revealed, Enrico Fermi, the father of the nuclear age, and you won't believe the next one, Werner von Braun, the Nazi rocket scientist to build NASA's Apollo program.
No official records link Fermi or von Braun to any Vatican-funded technology. However, both participated in top-secret U.S. defense projects involving non-conventional physics.
The theory was that the light and sound, like vinyl groves, leave traces etched into the fabric of the universe. The Chronovisor allegedly could find those traces, decode them, and replay them exactly as they happened. Ernetti swore that the machine worked, and he had proof. A photo, he said, of Jesus Christ at the moment of death. It leaked in 1972, but it was quickly debunked. It matched no sculpture in an Italian cathedral, but Ernetti never backed down, even as the church grew silent, even as the skeptics tore apart the photo, even as it lay decaying in a hospital bed decades later. He maintained one thing, that the Chronovisor was real, and it was dismantled because it was too dangerous.
In 1988, the Vatican issued a decree. Any use of a device resembling the Chronovisor would result in immediate excommunication. No reason was given.
Think about that. If it wasn't real, why issue a decree at all? Unless the real danger wasn't the machine. It was what someone might see with it. Some secrets are mechanical, others are written. Tucked deep inside the Vatican's archive are manuscripts that never made it to Sunday Mass. Texts the Church calls apocryphal, but others call explosive. One of the most dangerous, the Gospel of Judas. It was discovered in the Egyptian desert in the 70s. This ancient manuscript told a story that the Church never wanted told. That Judas wasn't a traitor, he was a trusted agent, following Jesus' orders. Betrayal? No, it was obedience.
The Gospel of Judas is part of the Codex Chakos, carbon dated to the 3rd or 4th century CE, rejected from canon at the Council of Nicaea.
And that's just the beginning. There's also the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, where she's not just a footnote, she's a leader, a teacher. Some say the apostle Jesus loved most. Then there's the Gospel of Thomas, less a biography, more a set of riddles, spiritual, abstract, and missing any mention of crucifixion or resurrection. The Church calls these heresies, fragments, or philosophy, but scholars, some say they represent an entirely different branch of early Christianity, one that focused on personal enlightenment over hierarchical control. So why hide them? Why not release these texts with a disclaimer and let the faithful decide? The answer, some say, lies in a single word: authority. Because if the Gospels were chosen, if Scripture is a curated list, then what does that say about everything built on it?
Of the over 30 Gospels believed to exist in early Christian communities, only 4 were included in the canonical Bible. Selection criteria included apostolic origin and theological consistency.
The Vatican claims it's preserving clarity, but others argue it's protecting power. And while the Gospel of Judas was eventually published, there are rumors that more texts exist. Once found in the 1940s with the Nag Hammadi scrolls, allegedly moved into Vatican custody and never seen again. The Church has denied these claims, but in 1985, a translator working on the scrolls disappeared. His notes were unfinished, and his office remained empty. No foul play was confirmed, but his draft, half finished, mentioned the text described simply as a gospel written by one who was not born of man. That fragment never surfaced, not in any archive, not in any journal, not even in the footnotes. But if true, that means somewhere beneath Rome is a gospel that doesn't just rewrite Jesus, it rewrites humanity itself. On June 22, 1983, a 15-year-old girl named Emanuela Orlandi walked out of a music class in central Rome and disappeared. She was a citizen of Vatican City, born and raised behind its walls, the daughter of a Vatican employee. Technically, she disappeared from the smallest country in the world. And in the 4 decades since, her case has never been solved.
The disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi remains the longest-running open case in Vatican City history. No suspect has ever been officially charged.
At first, it seemed like a kidnapping, but the ransom calls were strange, inconsistent, often referencing political demands like the release of Mehmet Ali Achka, the man who shot Pope John Paul II. Then came the rumors of a Vatican bank scandal, of organized crime, of a priest with wrong connections. In 2012, bones were found beneath a church near Vatican grounds. They weren't Emanuela's, but in 2019, the Vatican allowed her family to open 2 sealed tombs. Both were empty. And in 2023, a whistleblower came forward. An anonymous source leaked a Vatican document confirming the existence of a classified file on Emanuela Orlandi. Filed, marked, restricted, and off limits.
The Vatican acknowledged the existence of a document regarding Orlandi's case in 2023, but stated its contents were not sufficient to reopen the investigation. Details remain sealed.
But here's what makes this more than just a cold case. In the same document, according to leaked transcripts, was a phrase that shocked even veteran journalists. Transferred to Section 9 for silence protocol. Section 9 doesn't exist, at least not on paper. Some believe it refers to a covered wing of the Vatican archive. Others think it's connected to the same unlisted floor where the Chronovisor was allegedly dismantled, and a very few, believe Emanuela Orlandi saw something she wasn't meant to see. We may never know what happened to her, but if the Vatican does know, they've chosen silence. And silence, in a place filled with prayers, means more than absence. It means control. In 2020, Pope Francis made a historic move. He opened the archive of Pius XII, the wartime pope, decades ahead of schedule. It was framed as an act of transparency, a gesture toward truth. And for a moment, it felt like the door had finally opened. Researchers flowed in, journalists followed. And what they found was disturbing. Detailed reports sent directly to the Vatican during World War II, eyewitnesses' accounts of mass extermination, personal letters from bishops pleading for action, all delivered years before Pius XII ever spoke publicly about the Holocaust.
The Vatican previously claimed Pope Pius XII was unaware of the full scope of Nazi atrocities. The newly released records contradict that position.
The archives didn't just hold secrets, they held silence, deliberate, documented, and deadly. And yet, this was the section they agreed to open. What does that say about the parts that remain sealed? What about the text from Nag Hammadi that disappeared? The restricted journals of Father Ernetti? The rumored scroll detailing the birth of a non-human prophet? What about the stories of popes denied entry to parts of the archives themselves? And what about the project that was quietly paused in 2012? The one that began dignitizing the Vatican's entire vault until it abruptly stopped. No explanation, no update, and again, just silence. There's something unsettling about a vault built by men of God, locked from within. What kind of knowledge needs this much protection? Who are they keeping it from? And more importantly, why?
Some doors were never meant to be opened, but others were simply never meant to be locked.
They say history is written by the victors, but maybe it's just locked away by the faithful. For centuries, we've imagined secrets buried beneath the Vatican, but maybe not all secrets are underground. Because if the Vatican has a hidden machine that can watch the past, what if someone else, somewhere, is watching us? The Black Knight satellite, a mysterious object first spotted in the 50s, no signal and no known origin, circling, silent, decades before we had the tech to put it there. If the Vatican guards the past, could this be guarding the future, or warning us about it? In the book of John it says, "And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." But maybe that only works if you're allowed to see it. What if the greatest lie ever told was that we already know our past? Because maybe what we think of it as history wasn't written to reveal anything, but it was written to protect us from something. Truth, fiction, you decide.